The time has come once again. It is Wednesday, and that means it is Deadlock Fight Night time, number 21, presented by Intel. MCP here with Jason Kaplan. And Jason, once more, we got a packed lineup for today as far as matches go, kicking off the day with VP versus Parivision.
I really want to mess with you right off the bat, talking about something last week into this week, because I thought, number 20 was our last DFN, but clearly it wasn't, because we're back for 21, and I'm going to say it anyways. Yeah, man, we've got a star-studded lineup. We have literally, in my opinion, the best of the best in EU and North America. Virtus.pro, Parivision all going head-to-head to take down our reigning champions, which I didn't expect to see happen last week of one win. And not to mention over in NA, the only two teams to ever beat Hydra Nation legitimately are going for the chance to defeat the Hydras. Like, it's such a crazy day of action, and it's going to be so many good games.
Yeah, I love how you say the last part, legitimately. But also, let's legitimately get into the schedule here for today. Throw a graphic in here to get the format right in. If it is the first time you've tuned in to Deadlock Fight Night, well, our format here is pretty simple. We have two challenging teams face off against each other in a best of one. The winner goes on to the money match to fight our reigning champion in EU. Of course, that is one win who, they dethroned Virtus.pro, Jason, and they've proved it hasn't been a fluke.
Yeah, so they dethroned them in the most important way too, after getting absolutely, part of my language, on the week before. I had to find the button for that one because I didn't want to say it on air. They got absolutely destroyed by Virtus.pro in a very quick 2-0. But the funny thing was, right before that, in one win, number 4, Virtus.pro beat them in a best of 5 that went the full series. So it was really cool to see one win bounce back and kind of stick it into another gear to show that they're not just a one-shot team. They have other facets to their roster, which importantly for me was ABL on the Sinclair was kind of the standout performance, especially in that final match.
Yeah, I mean, ABL has kind of proven incredible versatility, where at one point the idea behind ABL was, okay, maybe you can ban out ABL, get rid of the Amato, get rid of things like Calico, force ABL into, heroes they might not be as proficient in. Doesn't really seem to be possible. But before we get deeper into this matchup and the rosters, I got to bring in Jake. Of course, he'll be our analyst for today. And, Jake, again, EU continues to surprise and innovate as things roll along.
Yeah, I think ever since the 3-lane map patch, these teams have been trading places in the top spot, going blow for blow. It felt like VP pulled out to an early lead. Now it'll be one win defending in that championship match. And I really feel like consistently between these three teams, it's anybody's game to win. I think Parivision has made some big strides as well as a team, picking up Wolfie. They look a lot stronger. So I'm just super excited, especially for the challenger match. I think both of these teams are going to have a chip on their shoulder, want to take it to one win.
Man, ZP, today, there's like two big storylines I'm looking at outside of the teams. Will we see Mo played as heavily in EU as we saw last week? Because we saw for Obi Kim how it worked and did it work most importantly against one win, but also the teleporter change that we've had happen over in these outside lanes. You can't quickly do what Leffa was doing in the previous weeks of just hopping from lane to lane back and forth, constantly ganking and pulling off pushes. That drastically affects like the way you have to play things out and affect a lot of the rotations.
I mean, it really spreads out the map in a way that it really hasn't been done before, because effectively, because of the teleporter in the left and right lane were effectively close together. Now, if you commit to left lane, you're kind of in left lane unless you're Mirage, right, who can teleport to the other side of the map, and of course, vice versa in right lane. So to me, I mean, not only does it change the rotations that we're going to be seeing here, but the big thing to me, Jake, as I look at it, is that Mirage, who is already highly valued, goes up even more in value now that you've effectively made the map larger with the teleporter change.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to go back to like a world of permanent first ban Mirage, because Mirage was already getting first picked almost every time last week. And I think now, as you mentioned with that teleporter change, it may just be like too good of a hero to give to the other team if you aren't first pick. So whoever's getting first pick, maybe the other team just has to ban Mirage. I suspect that could be the case with Hit already being so high prio. And I think this change is really interesting because it's subtle, right? Like if you're just watching the games, you won't even see this, right? It's something that's just no longer there. But in terms of how it affects the way teams play the game, I think it's actually really significant for the early to mid game. And heck, even the late game, right? Like grabbing the urn and running it to the other side of the map. I mean, in the past, you were able to always beat the other team to the urn by virtue of TPing. You get to the drop-off location, you're ready to defend it. Now it's going to take a lot more of a tactical awareness, strategic awareness for teams to see those objectives coming. And like, if the other team gets the urn and picks it up and starts running it away from you, you might just not be able to catch them. They might just, send it all the way in. So I think it's going to be a new test, a new level of pressure for the teams. And I think this is going to make the game a lot more interesting, a little bit less snowball-y off winning one side lane, going and winning the other one with the TP. I think that was a little bit simple and straightforward before. And now more opportunity maybe for the two lanes to have very different outcomes.
Now, Jason, we've just went over the breakdown of it. Anything in particular for you that you're expecting with the changes here, aside from maybe, as mentioned, the fact that Mirage is going to be even more highly valued to the point that we may not see Mirage at all today?
Well, so quickly, like what Jake said with the urn not being easily to just teleport between lane to lane, I think that is a massive factor, and I'm so glad he brought it up because we've seen teams so heavily invest in urns right from the get-go over the last few weeks. Also, mid lane was changed as well. You can't really you can't occupy the high spot on the arch anymore, which we haven't seen too much. So I don't know how groundbreaking that's going to be. However, I think more towards like mid to late game, that could be a little bit more effective since you could use that as a location to scout out and gain a lot of information safely. And obviously the sprint speed increased as well by 0.5 for all the other heroes, which means Bebop is a race car getting around the map, but obviously helps with these rotations quite a bit.
Well, look, we are ready to get into the draft. You might be wondering, what about the Mo 1v1? Well, there was some brutality on there that we could not immediately put out, so we're just going into it. Surely couldn't be anything like our replay file bugging out. That couldn't be the case. But actually, before the draft, full rosters coming in here, and for VP, no changes. I wouldn't expect VP to make changes anytime soon, but it's been interesting seeing their draft strategy evolve. In particular, Jason brought it up in the intro a little bit, Jake, just the idea of like, okay, Obakim's been playing a lot of Mo and Krill. Do they value it as highly given what happened to them in the series versus one win last week?
Yeah, for Obakim as a player, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting week to see his perspective on the meta, because as one of the, I would say maybe it's fair to say the best support over the last, few months in Europe, supporting in general has felt a little bit lower value, at least in the past few weeks. Some teams have been going kind of no support or running the Mo as a sort of a support, but like none of these, like much less picks of things like Kelvin, Ivy, just being a lot less popular. And teams going really for like lane domination, 6 potentially scaling heroes in a lot of these drafts, like the Mo. So I think I'm just curious to see what Obakam does. I have a lot of respect for him as a player. Like, for me, it doesn't matter so much what he plays. Like, yeah, he plays a lot of support, but he has been insane on heroes like the Holiday, showcasing his individual skill. So I think this will be just a great week for fans of the game to see what does a player like Obakim play, and how can you kind of take that back home to your own games of Deadlock, and what can you learn from this guy?
Yeah, and I think we saw a lot of ZP that they kind of heavily relied on that like Mo Holiday pick in mid lane, but we saw, and we got to talk to, was a Xenon from one win after they beat Virtus.pro last week in the finals, saying that you put a Mirage there and you kind of counter that lane decently well because of the poke you can do up against a big Mo and Krill. So for me, it's all about like Virtus.pro, what are you going to adapt today? But also for Parivision at the same time, what they've been doing has just not been working for them. They have to figure something out to get to that next level.
Yeah, for Parivision, it's interesting, right? Where they, we looked to the roster, they did the big roster change a few weeks back where Play With Me, once the just absolute hero of the team, now gone, replaced with Wolfie, who used to play, of course, with DMS and, previous era. And they go, okay, we're going to change things up. And Wolfie's played quite well, but it's like, it feels like Parivision has kind of been stuck, right? Like a half step behind where VP and one win have kind of brought themselves to. And, for Parivision, we know this is a talented squad that at times, the core of the squad has been on top of EU multiple times, right? But it's just, in the last 2 months, they've been kind of struggling to find what's necessary to get back into the top spot. And, Jake, I think it comes down to a combination of both like early lane play and macro, where Parivision's just been, a little bit behind.
Yeah, I think Tass is a player I have my eye on. The guy has just looked so impressive for the last few weeks. Regardless of the overall results, Taz has looked like one of the best players in Europe, one of the best players in the world, especially on playmakers like Paradox, Holiday as well. But I think the Paradox, here on his preferred hero makes a lot of sense because he just dominates on this character. He has ridiculous stats, sometimes top damaging the lobby, despite Paradox not typically being like a high farm prio hard carry hero. Taz gets it done. I think Wolfie has looked great on the playmakers. He looked fantastic. I think it was 2 weeks ago on a pocket game. He's played more 7, I think, as a more stable carry late game team fighter. But I kind of want to see him on the pocket again. I kind of want to see Parivision take the tempo to VP. I think playing like a slow team fight oriented style is a risky gambit with just how insanely talented VP are in that type of a fight. I'm kind of curious to see if Parivision can up the tempo a little bit more and put pressure on VP in that early to mid game.
Yeah, I want to see them go back to like the old school Parivision when we first saw them really take it to Virtus.pro, was like winning early, but then snowballing the game from there. Like get one of these early Guardians, and then from that position, start taking away jungle, start looking for ganks inside the jungle the best you can, and then win fights off of that. The thing is, like looking back at their previous heroes played, like they're playing like on meta things right now that are important. They're playing sevens, they're playing mirages, they're playing pockets. Like they're playing very good heroes with the way things are currently being played out. But for some reason, they haven't figured out necessarily to a way to beat like Virtus.pro or one win of recent times.
Well, the upside for Parivision, there's a lot of game tape to review, and they haven't been the ones in the crosshairs, so we'll see if they've made the adaptations. As we head into the draft, it is going to be VP with first pick, first ban, and again, the question I want to see answered here is, where does Mirage get picked or banned here? Because if VP is first pick, to my idea here, they won't first ban the Mirage, and they'll leave the Parivision to ban it instead, if Mirage is at that high level of value. But, Jake, we'll see what this first ban is.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Barrage gets more heavily featured even in the first ban. It's going to be the GT banned out first by VP.
Yeah, I can't forget about the soft plays on Great
True.
Talent. I remember making like clips of him just one-shotting Piggy when they played up against like the Maidong squad. Was insane stuff out of him. But again, I think maybe Virtus.pro as well, trying to position themselves for a Vindicta pick early on, which I don't know if I'm really that much of a fan on anymore after we saw like one win be able to beat them up against it.
You got my hopes up. Hope you're
Well, they go
happy.
for the holiday first ban, and I mean,
Mirage
okay, it
getting
makes
through.
sense. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if you get Mirage like this, because for me, based on just historical power level, the fact that nothing got worse, everything got better. If you're VP, you 100% pick the Mirage here. I think anything other than Mirage feels like a misplay. I mean, yeah, Paradox is nice to have a playmaker, but I don't know. I feel like you don't give that up, but we'll see what it is here, Jake.
And in that sense, I also like the holiday ban. If it is, let's see the pick. Okay, they're gonna go with the Vin first. This is crazy. I feel like Parivision get Mirage Paradox right now, and
Yes.
that's like ridiculous because not only have you banned holiday, so the Paradox premium is up, but also Mirage. I just theoretically, I mean, this is a pure theory crap, right? But it should be with less effective global teleport. That the hero with the global teleport is now even stronger, while also already being a first pick quality in the last few weeks. Mirage Paradox looks just absurd to me as an opener.
Darlings.
Calico, okay.
Calico. Okay, I mean, Calico got nerfed a little bit, but still, I think you look at the nerfs, it doesn't matter because how overwhelming strong she is. I still think here, you got to go with the Mirage. I mean, yeah, you're giving up the Paradox on the other end, but I don't know, Jason. Maybe in our preamble, maybe we've overrated it, but I don't think we have.
Maybe VP doesn't value the Paradox as highly because Mikhails is playing Vindicta and he normally would be the Paradox player. It could be somebody else taking it, but it does look a little bit more. Whoa, okay.
What?
Things have changed hugely over the last week. All bets are off, guys. All theory crafting is wrong. I mean, Mirage untouched, Paradox untouched, Kelvin going second.
Maybe I could. Okay, so maybe in my head, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, with the mobility taken away of no more teleporters on the outside lanes, having heroes with very high mobility and the ability to get around the map quickly, especially when it comes to urn contesting, is maybe valued a lot more highly out of the teams at the moment. Because I mean, even Pocket as well can be extremely quick around the map with his with his cloak, and of course Majestic Leap that you're most likely to be picking up as well.
Okay, if Mirage doesn't get picked here, Jake, I'm losing my mind. I'm just letting you know.
Because I think Mirage is the quintessential example of exactly that, right? Being able to get around the map. I mean, I guess it's a little bit more like mid to late game. You don't immediately have the TP, but you're not really roaming before ulti on almost anyone anyway. 7 goes as well. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, these are strong heroes, but VP's comp, I mean, they have like a lot of holes in the comp, which is they're halfway through the draft, right? But I feel like I would have loved to see like a little bit more frontline at this point of the draft. Parivision kind of monopolize it right now.
So, but looking at like Vindicta, I think I'm going on a limb saying this, but we've seen Obi Kim play Vindicta, and we know how good Michaelis can be on Pocket, but obviously we could see it played by someone else like D-Mob, or I think it's D-Mob. I'd have to double check that one. But I almost like the flexibility of picking a Vindicta now that I think about it, because you have other people who could play it in different kind of roles. But to go that over like Mirage, I still have to question. But I mean, we do have, was that Listic and Lightbringer in chat who could potentially fill us in on why they decided to go for that.
We just had Shiv get picked over Mirage, and okay, Abrams ban comes in. I don't know. I will look at this entire draft. It's like, okay, some of the power picks make sense. Like Vindicta 7 gang picked early makes sense. Kelvin going up radically in value for Parivision, at least where it's been in EU. The fact that we've gotten 3 picks in for each team and now mid-stage bans with Mirage still existing is blowing my mind.
And Paradox. I mean,
yes, and Paradox, yes.
But I will say, like, just at the first 3, I think this is a great moment to evaluate the draft. Okay, VP's going to ban the Paradox. I actually think it's a really good ban.
Yeah.
Because I think Parivision has, with these 3 heroes, such a ridiculous close range brawling potential. If you're swapping people in to Shiv, Calico, Kelvin, I mean, they are just 100% dead. Like, there is no escape from this kind of like a mid-game death ball you swap into. And so I think taking away some of the catch is actually really important for VP, given they have 7 and Vindicta, who if they get caught by the death ball at almost any phase in the game are going to die. In Parivision, get the Mirage much later into the draft, but I gotta say, guys, I'm really liking what Parivision is cooking so far. This draft looks really sick. The team fight potential looks amazing. VP, I mean, they give a lot of mobility and late game potential, but it's scary, man. You make one mistake, you start getting snowballed down. The team fight from Parivision looks like insurmountable right now.
Man, I mean, you look at VP, I think you called it out, Jake, the idea of, like, you know, frontlining and what they're going to have here. Okay, you get the Bebop late into the draft, but
I like the Bebop.
Yeah, no, the Bebop isn't bad, but it's like, I don't know. I'm looking at the entire thing, Jason. I kind of with Jake's additional thought here of just like Parivision's lineup feels far more complete between the 2 teams right now.
Yeah, first, yeah, I like the Bebop, by the way, because I was about to say before we saw it picked, is this the first time we would have not seen Paradox or Holiday played since Holiday came out? Like, that's kind of crazy to also see a game with no pick out of anyone, so the Bebop comes through. But yeah, looking at Parivision, I mean, very strong like team fight potential as well with the Kelvin. The Frozen Shelter is obviously something we see quite time and time again. We even had a refresher Frozen Shelter last week with GBG pretty early into the game. But they're looking pretty beefy, looking pretty strong. I would almost love to see like a Yamato as well paired in with Parivision here, because then you have like such a strong like 3, 4, 5 person comp who can like fight in your face and not be worried about it.
Geist is much on the same vein, right? Like same conceptual way to play the hero. I think though for VP's call, I think this Bebop Viscous is really the perfect 2 that you could pick here, unless you wanted to go really crazy and go like a Dynamo, but I don't think they're going to do that. But in terms of, you have this big death ball running down on you on lanes. What's scarier than a Bebop camping behind walkers, threatening to pull, like split the formation by hooking people out of like that death ball? And Viscous is much the same story. If somebody does get caught by the death ball, you've got Cube to give them. You've got the roll to disrupt the death ball while your Vindicta 7 in pocket, you know, try to make the carry happen. And I mean, I think Parivision is quadrupled down on this style. Like, they are going to be monster death balling with Kelvin heals. Kelvin is going to have like 95,000 heal stat this game if it goes late. And I'm really curious to see what VP go for the finisher. Is it more damage or is it one more disruptor?
Like,
no, it's
Dynamo.
Wow, they did it. Okay, I'm not going to say I called it, guys, but I think I might have called that.
So let's review just in 1 week. Mo and Krill falls off the earth in our first EU game. Mirage gets picked 4th by a team. So, you know, realistically speaking, like, you know, what, 9th overall pick-wise. This is kind of a ridiculous, like, set of changes from week to week right now. I will say, trying the process.
This is just not a Mo game for VP though. Like VP cannot play Mo, even if it's good hero, because what are you gonna do? Go combo when they're like 6 stacked and they're just gonna instantly kill you on Mo? Like, you can't go into this and like, they're not splitting on Parivision. You're not catching people solo. You know, and I think for VP, they've got monster AoE damage in the forms of 7 in pocket. I guess maybe Bebop and Dynamo can contribute a little bit in the damage, but the back half of the draft has all 3 heroes are like anti-death ball control. So like when you go for Parivision, these big dives on walkers, you try to make big 6-man plays. I mean, Dynamo Viscous can really carve up that team fight. Bebop much the same, and then you get overextended into a 7 ult that you don't have like a great cancel for in the whole lineup. I mean, it's just like buying knockdowns, I guess, for 7. You know, I could see a world in this back half draft for VP that they've responded to the overwhelming death ball 3 picks in a row. I can see it just working for Parivision and they just overwhelm anyway. However, I think there is a more clear win con for VP if they can execute this pretty unique draft.
So 2 things. So the Dynamo really quickly, Jake. I remember last week we had Hydronation, LARP Lords, game 1. We saw Hydronation pick Dynamo, and you were talking about the perfect counter to the Death Volley comp where they had like Infernus, Calico, Kelvin, and Lady Geist. But then we're seeing it yet again here to adapt to what I want to call the one win comp, actually, because it's very heavy in your face composition. This is pretty much very similar to what one win has been running week in and week out. And they use that comp to get a lot of catches in the jungle to snowball that into a 6v5 fight. They could eventually take objectives. I think we're honestly seeing like the impact that one win has kind of had on the meta with the recent success.
Here's what I think, though. Look at these comps. I think VP is playing comp where absolutely they have to get ahead in the early in the mid game. I don't think there's a whole lot they could do if they get behind something like 20k by about like 15 minutes in, right? I think the comeback potential, especially running the bebop and being something that I think there's a little bit more early game focus, is actually going to be quite difficult between the two teams, is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I agree with you in a sense. I mean, there's like a certain kind of a lead that'll be insurmountable when Parivision can dive you and like, you know, tempo you out after a Dynamo ult. But if VP can win the fights off the Dynamo ult, if they can win off like the Viscous roll, you know, if people like Seven and or even Vindicta, especially if Seven, I don't think if he gets caught, it's going to be really bad. But, you know, I think if there's a world here for VP where the death ball is just really scary to execute, or Bebop is finding pickups, even if they're behind, I think they have some pretty sick tower defense here. Like the for Parivision to 6-stack and do anything is a huge risk when Bebop's looking for hooks. You know, Viscous is looking to bounce people in. Dynamo, there's a lot of disruption and playmaking in the back half of the draft. And if Pocket and Seven have the farm, that's going to be really critical, that they just bring the real damage. Same for Vindicta. Then I can see this a world where this is winnable. That being, I think teams have like radically different visions of how to play. It's like the death ball versus the anti-death ball pickoff. And I just think it's going to make for a really interesting match to tell us more about this new meta.
I almost wouldn't be surprised that if Virtus.pro are successful with this comp right now, that we could potentially see like a Dynamo ban, or they're going to play it potentially yet again up against one win if they get there, because one win like to play this exact style, or at least exact comp Parivision are running, though if Parivision play that same style was yet to be seen. I mean, this might be kind of like groundbreaking. It might break the meta yet again. We might have to see those adaptations come further because, you know, as you're saying, you two are saying, the Bebop Viscous Dynamo, it gives you so much safety, gives you a lot of pick potential as well. But to me, it's really all about if you can hit that damn singularity to really open things up like we saw last week with Hydra Nation.
I think no matter what, as we go in here, we're going to see something cool. One way or another. Either VP's setup here is going to redefine a little bit of how we're looking at drafts right now in the current meta, or we're going to look at it and go, oh, dear Lord, you cooked for a little bit too long, and the result was not good. But either way, we'll get a taste of it here. Also get to see what the lane setup is going to be, especially now with the teleporters being changed. And yeah, take a look.
Kelvin Shiv, Jake loves that lane, ZP.
Okay.
That's true, Jake. You love that lane?
It's a scary lane, man. This like getting perma slowed for Shiv's ridiculous damage fall off is super scary. Curious to see those side lanes. Viscous as well, I think, could have a good lane, but Yamato Viscous, I think, can be pretty explosive. If you get ahead in the HP, you can kind of snowball and keep life stealing on the other target.
The thing that reaches out to me here, I mean, Bebop is scary in lane, but on the same note, the Mirage Calico lane, that's one of the most devastating lanes I can think of to be putting in middle. I'm really curious how middle shakes up here, Jason.
I think about the setup, right? If you get the kinetic pulse, you get a knockup. That's a pretty damn easy hook. And it's a lot easier to hit that kinetic pulse than it is to hit a hook when it comes to that lane. But when it comes to kill potential, I mean, that's going to be the real question. Do you have kill potential on that lane if you aren't pulling someone under the Guardian? And obviously with the way that they're currently playing a little bit back towards their own Guardian at the moment, letting, I guess, the wave shove into them. And then also at the same time, we already had Shark get extremely low when it came to the Viscous. So he's already having a tough time in that lane.
Jake, any final thoughts before we let you go as we get deeper into the setup here? Anything that stood out to you from the early lane matchups here so far?
Yeah, I think early lanes, I mean, Viscous having a sort of a weaker start. I'd be curious to see how these progress. But I think really this is going to be two very strong teams. I doubt we're going to see like a massive snowball. And I think this is going to be more on the mid-game team fight execution. So both teams just looking to eke that early lead out. But I think this is a game that will be decided by those big objectives.
All right. So far, Jason, relatively quiet between the lanes. Though, taking a look at it, Kelvin getting chunked down a little bit on the left. So, small early pain point perhaps for Parivision. But right now, just waiting to see who is going to get ahead of things. I'm curious, though, how middle lane has been going about. Like, we talked about middle lane a lot before, and for me, I'm really interested to see how the pressure is going to bake out here, because a lot of it is also just avoiding getting hooked, right? Where if you get hooked, the fall through is going to be devastating. But if you're able to, as simple as it sounds, just not get hooked, right? I feel like the raw power of the Calico Mirage is definitely stronger of the two.
Yeah. And the dive potential out of this team, too, could be really dirty. I mean, you have a Tornado for a knock-up, Enter the Shadows for Calico on top of that to kind of stay alive when digging in deep. Obviously, it's a Singularity. They're going to have to really worry about when it gets towards that point. But you're kind of already seeing that respect that you mentioned about the Bebop. Once that hook is off cooldown, you can see they're playing very safe. They're playing behind a lot of these walls. And the second the hook's off cooldown, they're more than confident to push up and start putting on some pain.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of this idea where at times the hook is more valuable when it's not thrown out, just because of how it makes your opponents react. Whereas, high value if you hit the hook, but you open yourself up to pain when you go for the hook and it misses.
I think that's the question at the end of the day is, do you feel like you need to get kills on this lane in middle, or do you just need to survive middle and wait for a later stage in the game where that pick potential becomes even more greater? And of course, the Singularity when we get Parivision grouped up. And I would say it's more the latter of the two than the former, because that's really where the focus of Virtus.pro typically is anyways when it comes to playing out these matches.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a really fair point. The idea is that you run Bebop in a lane and you're not even being super aggressive with your hooks. Crime of opportunity if you get it, and you just use the thread of the hook to have a relatively safe lane against what could otherwise be a nightmare to go against. I don't know necessarily you play Bebop with that intent, but it's something that you could theoretically do, as it's been a little bit sleepy in middle here so far. Both teams respecting each other, and I mean, the early game laning so far, relatively even.
Yeah, I mean, even Divine Barrier picked up there, you saw, and already being used. I mean, they have healing, they have sustain. They do, I have to kind of correct myself. I feel like they do have kill potential actually in this lane, because all you need is a hook, and then you have a connect pulse right after that, and you're going to lock someone down. You also have the uppercut. Like, you're going to keep someone impregnated quite heavily in that lane if it does land. There you go, Ab in chat. You got me to say it eventually. So they do have some kill potential here, but I don't know if they're really going to be able to pull it off because of Parivision playing it so cautiously. But at the same time, it's maybe for Parivision, are you playing too cautious? If you take that tower, you free up so much space for your team to play it, especially when it comes to Mirage and the Calico.
Pod just opened on right lane, drop the Affliction. Is the immediate fall through going to be there? Meanwhile, on the left side, Obikim was able to take down Litz on Vindicta, so things heating up a little bit across the map. Both teams turning out 1-for-1. Now, Shiv getting into Obikim's face and decides, nope, don't actually want to take this fight too severely. Does not want to get hit with the assassination. Now, in trouble after getting hit with the stake. Just moving back a little bit, not committing.
Yeah, no ult reset for him. He's got to be careful of the assassinate for Obikim to come through, which he had on cooldown at the time in that fight. And well, we do have Yamato going a little bit deep here as Wolfie. Actually, he's typically not even the Yamato player for the team. This is something we didn't even mention. I think a big change up for them in the team is they go for the dive over on a Shark. He's going to fall. Him and Prestus able to lock down a kill on that right-hand side.
Yeah, so things are getting a little bit scrappy between both lanes. Still, at the end of it, relatively even. Economy distribution also even too. Listic getting real low in middle lane right now, though. Dangerous place to be against Mirage and Calico. Seeing the pressure, though. Here on to Vindicta. Obikim right now looking for a way out. 100 HP, just nowhere to go. Frozen out.
I mean, it's going to be a kill. I feel like when the Frozen Shelter comes in, when you have that Shiv and the Kelvin, you're eventually going to go down, especially once that like guaranteed kill comes through with his ultimate. And now it's just left to Zuri to try to survive here. And I did go and check. Wolfie has played Yamato once, but 0% win rate on it so far. But then again, Parivision have been struggling quite heavily these last few weeks to make it into the mini match. Last time they got there was technically because Virtus.pro couldn't even play it. So they played out a best of 5 up against OneWin just a few weeks back. And they did take it the full 5, to be fair, winning the first 2 matches. And look at that. Oh, man. The Ricochet as well off the Serrata Blades can do a lot of chip damage here for him. And he's actually very spirit heavy already.
I mean, the pressure being put down in left lane between the Shiv and the Kelvin has been pretty significant here so far. Holding Obikim a bit back, however. Let's see the charge come out. Stun Shiv out for just a brief second. Obikim taken to the skies, and it's always dangerous as a Shiv. You feel pretty tanky, but this is something where you give up the assassinate here. You could go down relatively quickly, but you just have the Kelvin. You go up, pressure the Vindicta a little bit back, and the lane's even being relatively even, still very tense, Jason.
But I think it's also, as we mentioned, this lane on the left side, like Litz with a smart pickup goes for the extra charge to make sure he can heal even more when needed. So when the chip damage does come through onto together, he can keep him healthy. And I think it's a very smart pickup. You can see together he's back on full HP. There's finally the hook in under the Guardian with the Tornado right back out. is able to survive. The Singulator's going to catch on to Calico. Saf's going to fall. So then we do see that kill potential coming through. You got to respect those ultimates, and not to mention the heal off the back of that.
I feel like Saf just paid for the sins of Tas. Her Tas gets hooked in. Saf goes to actually protect, be a little bit of a distraction. And meanwhile, Listic goes, actually, I'm just going to Singularity you instead. And, Saf ends up paying the price.
And so we see the left-hand side for Parivision is up against the Guardian, pushing. The right-hand side for Parivision are up against the Guardian, defending. Being very tough to deal with the Pocket. And I think it's also very important to note, Pocket has had such a huge resurgence here in DFN after not seeing him for the longest of times because of just consecutive nerf after nerf. But Pocket lately, man, he's had so much great success. The damage he's able to do late game, especially the changes to Affliction, the mobility and the safety you have as a Pocket player as well. It's really nice to see Michaelis back on a Pocket to be a playmaker. Yeah,
and I mean, the interesting thing about Pocket 2 is, you think back to a few DFNs back, it was like, what, 6-0 in Europe or 5-0? Yeah. It was actually ridiculous. His resurgence live, but Saf, this is barely getting out one, getting hooked in, and, well, maybe he's going to get out. Has to use Return the Shadow late still. Bebop on the Assault. Divine Barrier, basically the only reason why Saf is able to live to tell the tale. So the survivability items, hitting their mark. But when you get hit like that, Jason, it still affects your pressure on the lane. And now you wonder for VP, okay, you've just pressured down Calico a lot. Can you convert any of this into a little bit more Guardian damage?
I mean, Virtus.pro are ahead in souls when it comes to mid lane. If you look at it, I mean, they're at 6K. Yeah. They're probably approaching to 7 here as well. Like, it's very tough for Parivision, funny enough, with this Calico and Mirage. And another hook going to come through. Calico, Saf probably going to go down from this one. The explosion go off the bomb. They're going to go for the chase with the connect pulse. Listic looking for the kill, but you can see the dash back into the Bebop to allow Calico to go for the escape. And Listic still committed here. He wants this kill, but he's going to back away. And Saf's the presence, man, this is insane stuff here out of this lineup, out of Virtus.pro.
It's just like, please hit one more bullet, Saf. Not getting away with it in the end. And yeah, I mean, Demov's been applying great pressure with hooks. Not a ton, but just when it matters. And, it's limited the impact a little bit of the Mirage here so far. At times we've seen Mirage just completely take over middle lane. In this case, kind of checked by this Bebop Dynamo combination. 42K to 40K. And now first Urn coming up here, Jason. An Urn in a world with no teleporters. This should be interesting.
Yeah, if you're going to teleport, I mean, if you were to teleport over, you can get back really easily to defend any sort of pressure onto your Guardian. This time, it's not going to be so likely, which means you have to either give up your Guardian for the Urn, or you have to fight it without you being there, which I think actually is going to halt people from going for a lot of these Urns early on, just because of what you potentially can lose. Like for now, for instance, we could see Parivision pick up the Urn, considering they already got the Guardian down, but then you're leaving your own Guardian susceptible, and you already have the advantage. Another hook comes through. What is happening, Demov? He ate his Wheaties today.
Well, this time he's gotten powerful enough to blow up Tas in one combo is where we're at. So the middle lane desperately needs some help from Parivision. What that angle of help may be remains to be seen. Is Listic just going in, going, I want the extra Calico damage. I want it. Return the Shadow coming on in. Saf going, whoa, I'm not going to be bullied this much in the moment, but...
They got to be careful, ZP, because... now together and Litz are on the rotate. Like they've been freed up from being locked down that left-hand side lane. So we could see like 4-man fights happen on this middle lane where, yeah, you're Bebop and your Dynamo, but I don't know if you can survive a 4-man push directly into you, especially with that frozen shelter on top of Singularity to keep everyone alive that you're being able to pull in.
No, I mean, the map has definitely opened up as a result. Also, the Urn, thus far untouched, something that I'm not sure you would have seen last patch. So already... people wondering, but Frozen Shelter gonna be dropped here by Litz. Looking for the follow through. Instead, the Singularity inside the shelter. How's this fight gonna turn out right now? Take a little bit of cover into the cubby hole. Saf and Litz looking a little bit low. Meanwhile, Listic, 140 HP now. Run away from Tas and not quite able to get away, Jason.
They do trade though. Demov able to take down Saf, and now we're trying to see Tas escape, which he should be relatively fine. But we see Obi can come in, gonna lock him down with the tether. The backup's only going to be Demov on the Bebop, so most likely not going to be happening. In the meantime, a smart push. Virtus.pro, they shove the lane up, looking for this Guardian because Zergy has picked up the Urn and immediately ran it towards this right-hand side, but that has allowed Together to sit in that left lane and get some early walker damage in.
All right, kicking off here. Wolfie just immediately opening up here with the Shadow Transformation. Over on the Urn, VP still able to get the Urn turn in and punish Wolfie in turn. They just weren't able to rotate over there in time, Jason.
And I mean, obviously Sharik as well, able to help lock it down with the cube coming through. Listic headed over to that left-hand side to make sure to save that walker, which honestly didn't take that much damage this early into the game, to be fair. So Virtus.pro coming out with a big lead off of that. 5k souls in advantage. But we do not have a flex slot unlocked yet for Virtus.pro, where Parivision do have their own.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing here too, Parivision, that was a little bit tortured dealing with the Bebop in middle. They finally get the middle Guardian down. They actually preserve their middle Guardian in tow. And we've already seen what this can do for a Calico, right? In terms of invading the enemy jungle, getting more done, just stealing enemy farm. Getting the middle Guardian down is one of the most important things you can do. So I actually don't hate the Parivision position here right now.
Yeah, and we got to see how Virtus.pro are going to look to defend their jungle. I think OneWin was so adamant and honestly really good at taking away enemy jungle when they had opportunities like this. And that's one way they're able to build up advantages against the likes of Virtus.pro in these last few weeks. You can already see Listic looking to secure a lot of his own jungle on the left-hand side. And even like a 3-man squad potentially towards the right hand, as we do have Prestus a little bit far out of position with the pocket dive in on top of this. Michaelis, he wants blood. The rotations, I don't think they're going to be there in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-man rotation from VV. If Parivision had stayed in on it, it would not have gone well, even while Singularity is on cooldown. But 68k, the 63k at the moment. And right now, it's interesting to see the rotations. You got about 4 for VP rotating over to the right. It's just a Mirage right now in the right lane, Kelvin like vaguely nearby. And this feels like a more aggressive push into right, perhaps. Or at least they're hoping to see if something like that happens. Instead, though, it's going to be a bit of a disbursement and just, okay, fall back, deal with your jungle. But to begin jungle right now, taking a look at Calico and, Saf just wondering, okay, can I go into the enemy jungle? Nope, for now, just going to go back into the middle.
A little bit too dangerous. And looking at like OneWin and how they play this out, I feel like they would have already been kind of grouped at the moment looking for these picks. As we can see, Virtus.pro are looking to farm their own jungle at the same time. It's a little bit of a fight breaking out here. The Gooball going to be coming through to roll over together. Going to look to chase him down and escape off of that. Not really wanting to commit to that fight just yet. But I think you need to take advantage of how strong your comp is for Parivision at the moment and look for these fights and look for these, well, not necessarily fights that you can win because you have a man advantage and you can snowball off of that.
I do think, though, to an extent, just thinking about the scaling between the two teams, I think if you're Parivision, if you're keeping even on objective progress, you're actually okay at this. And also look at their rotation. Hit 3, heading over to the left, setting up a clean 3-on-2. Dangerous spot to be in here for the 7. Is chase down going to be enough? Moving on in, stun's going to come in the Calico, drops the Storm Cloud in response. I think they'll burst on down. They do together. Killing blow right over and in. So nice rotation for Parivision to shore up the left-hand side.
Smart response though out of Virtus.pro. They went for the middle Guardian to get some damage on top of it. Unluckily for them, they weren't able to really get anything off of that, though they are able to secure the right-hand side buff, and the left should be going the way of Parivision as they're already in that position on the map. Next urn is going to be up though, ZP, and I was really surprised to see Virtus.pro go for it last time. And they do have a Guardian to take over there, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them actually run it over this position.
This might be Singularity middle.
For a fight.
Listic's looking, doesn't even need it. Jason just gets a drop on in, gets the kill on the Saf, and not the kill on the Saf. They're immediately just going to rotate over with this urn. We'll see how effective this is going to be. They have about a 20-second window to get this done. See together right now, trying to contest a little bit here from Parivision, but if you're Sharik, you're just running straight to the turn-in.
Especially with that kill out of Zergia onto Tass, it opens things up. We do have Wolfie going to be coming through. But this is going to be a Guardian and an urn turn-in all at once. So they had a 5k lead from the last turn. This time they're up to 11k, though we might see a response out of Pressus on the right-hand side guard to take the final guard of the game for them. But Virtus.pro, with the lead they have, this is going to start to get very slippery for Parivision. They've been in this position time and time again up against Virtus.pro, but they need to figure out one way to stop this. And, well, right now they're struggling for that response.
It's probably a good time here where, as we see VP right now, I'll actually hold the phone. Pressure right now coming down on the Obakim. You just see Prestus walking on forward. I think Obakim should be able to just back out as you see what's going on in the right lane. Demov, though, coming on in. Demov setting up the 2-on-1 onto the Geist. Now you wonder, is Prestus going to be able to get away? Taz getting a kill into the other lane, but now, again, still kill. You look at Demov, looking for the Geist pick into the right, even as Carnage takes place into the mid lane. Parivision, they all collapse in the middle, and even still, Prestus still might get away on the right, Jason.
They're going to do mid. They're going to do mid. They have no Singularity to worry about. They don't have a Viscous either to worry about. And Prestus somehow managed to escape off the back of that. They could be baiting Virtus.pro in for a very easy fight that Parivision could potentially win here. No one's in position on Virtus.pro to defend against this. This is going to be a clean take here to Parivision, and a very smart answer to that question I asked before of how do they get themselves back into this to stop Virtus.pro in that 10K lead, and then get themselves right back on the board. But what can they accomplish off of this?
Well, you know what they did? They slammed middle, got a few kills, and because they were just all middle, they can immediately rotate on over. It was just smart where they choose to fight. And, you know, on top of that here, as we see Obakib getting smashed on the right-hand side, you know, Jake, you've seen all this transpire. You know, what are your thoughts on what we just saw of Parivision overloading middle and converting it into a mid-boss?
I mean, this is the strength of the Parivision lineup. You know, Pocket in trouble here potentially. I think he might be able to play his way out of this. Maybe not, though. Getting caught by the slowing hex. But, like, this is what Parivision were built to do, right? To group up, to play objectives. And at the same time, VP playing the map with a bit of an advantage in the lanes, an advantage split up. They still have that sole lead. But Parivision, I think, can potentially equalize that if they can play off this rejuve well. It's going to be far from easy, though. Still, the grouped up team fight. There's threats like Singularity and the roll from Viscous. It's very scary to chase under walkers here. So Parivision, while they love to take that next tier of objective, it's a scary proposition, even with rejuve on.
You know, Jason, I think back to how we set up the stakes for this match, and you know, one thing I'd mention is I think VP need to be like 15 or 20K up by this point. They're not, and they're down the rejuve right now. I think, you know, if you had to choose which game state you wanted right now, I feel like you got to choose Parivision of the two. I like it more right now than VP's spot.
I'm liking the way they're playing it right now. I think the rejuve that they got was more of just we have the ability to take it, so why not take it? Because we're not really seeing them go for any pushes onto any of these objectives. Because again, they don't really want to fight for objectives. They want to fight you in the jungle and then take objectives off the back of that with numbers advantage. And they're kind of split out across the map looking for any extra chip damage they can do. But we saw this happen like time and time again, similar with one win before last week. They take Rejuvenator and then they're just like they run Urn. And that was pretty much the accomplishment of what that Rejuvenator gave them. Though there's no Urn for them to take this time. But at least they get a lot of souls back for themselves, because it was looking very, very bad being down like 11+K souls at that point. So it's a good job by them to bounce back, and together he's at 18K, Press is at 19. Like, you're starting to get some heavy hitters here in the right positions.
Parivision is also probably about to completely negate the soul advantage here, because they were over in Virtus.pro's jungle taking some of VP's farm. They left their entire jungle safe. So long as they're able to actually go around their jungle and farm all this, that small lead between the two teams is actually going to completely vanish right now. So in Parivision, they've evened things out. They're getting their own farm, and now it's kind of setting up to a showdown for the next Urn, Jason, where I think things are going to go down. And I'm glad we have the camera on Listic, because I feel like Listic is going to be the one to watch, where the one X factor in this game, anytime you do play Dynamo, is can you land a big Singularity? Parivision, they do tend to be a little bit clumped up, so it might be relying on the Dynamo in this best of one.
I mean, he's got the Warp Stone. I'm wondering if we're going to see like a curse come in to prevent that or shut it down in the middle of the fight, because Parivision also do have a lot of ethereal shifts already picked up. It seems like the Wombo combo for items is ethereal shift picked up with Fortitude. It gives you a lot of survivability as you're seeing here, and obviously a lot of regen, so you have to go back to base to heal up. But with that Urn spawning back in, as we were talking about, ZP, both teams going to be grouping up towards this left-hand side. But I want to see Task keep pushing the right-hand walker, because no one on Virtus.pro is there to defend against it.
VP's going for the big rotation right now over to the Urn, kicking things off here with the Hyper Beam from Dimov, just clearing a little bit of space. Meanwhile, Parivision just able to head off to the left. Not the worst situation. They do give up Urn pickoff, but Parivision right now looking keen to engage to an extent. The Mirage can port in at a point. The Calico working her way on over. Let's see
Let
where
him
this
keep
one
it, man.
develops.
Take objectives. Let him keep it. You don't need to fight this one out. You have a free middle walker to take, giving you a flex slot. You also have a free right walker to take potentially out of Mirage if Task wants to keep pushing that. Let him have the Urn, because they still have to move across the entire map to go for the turn-in. Since you can't teleport over there, you have time to get some damage in, and you have time to defend the Urn at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's the approach they're taking right now, where they went for a little bit of damage. Mirage had to get forced out of right lane. So yeah, okay, VP is in control of the Urn, but Parivision is rotating away that they can contest the Urn turn-in. They're still keeping most of their lanes, Sands left, pushed up. I like where they're at right now, but now the Urn being rotated over by Sharik. This really could be the pivotal fight of the match coming up right now, Jason.
Yeah, this is where I kind of worry for Parivision, because they don't want to be the team engaged on. No, I mean, I don't know. I actually have to think about that as I say it, because you don't want to have Lista get in a position to pull off the big Singularity, but at the same time, you don't want to be pushing into them at the same time where you can get caught by Singularity. I think it's a very tough position in general for them to be in. I think they're more than happy spread out like this, looking for some damage onto these walkers. No one's there to defend middle. It's only D-Mob to defend the left-hand side up against TAS, who should be able to win on that exchange.
Well,
Virtus.pro, they technically... Go ahead.
The other thing they win on here is that this is where Mirage teleport. They get a clean 6-on-5. Bebop's not going to be able to get there in time if TAS just teleports in. But here we go. The fight getting teased right now. It's not a full engage. I actually like this for VP. In a way, it almost feels like they're trying to bait TAS into committing on the Traveler right now. And he's not doing it. Like, instead, TAS just goes back over to lane, and it's Bebop that's already swapped on over. So it's a full commit from VP with a full 6, and Parivision, they just go for the split right now, Jason.
Yeah, you push mid. You forget about the side lane because they can teleport in the position they're in with where the urn is as well to defend the left-hand side. You push middle, as we do see. It looks like Saf may be getting caught out here. There's just going to be used. Needs some backup from some teammates here. The Connect Pull's going to miss out, and he's actually going to survive this with the help of the Frost Grenade. But the urn's still sitting on the right-hand side. And, I mean, Tassie's still sitting on the left-hand lane to try to push this walker down. But every time he gets a wave there, someone teleports over and defends it.
Yeah, that pulse just a little bit tragically timed there. I think it was like a second later and actually hit. That may have been a pick on the Saf. I mean, it was that close when you look at where Saf's HP was at. But things right now hitting a standstill. Parivision just looking to eke out tiny macro advantages where possible, Jason. I mean, the back and forth that we've seen in terms of how this urn has been handled has been very interesting so far. You know, Jay, quick hit before the team fight. What are your thoughts as, we've seen teams play chess here, aided perhaps by the fact that you don't have the teleporters anymore?
I mean, on your earlier question, I think VP decisively always want to counter engage. I think Parivision are naturally going to be splitting and farming. However, when they group up, when they try and make kills, that's when they're vulnerable to the Singularity. As we see the team fight already breaking out, Singularity ripped.
Yeah, Singularity gonna get dropped. It's huge. It sets up for 3 to 4 kills right after the Storm Cloud fall through. Listic, a patient fisherman, hauls in a big catch, and you gotta think this is gonna go straight to mid boss. It respawns in 2 seconds. That could not have been more perfectly timed, Jason.
Maybe that was the play the whole time out of Virtus.pro. Bait them in, then actually go for the push where mid boss was about to spawn in. They're going to defend the left-hand walker. Parivision to get absolutely nothing off of that fight except 4 deaths, and now a team, rejuvened up Virtus.pro pushing against them. I mean, it's flawless. You go in. I think it's one thing we forget about for VP. They can send the person with the urn to go turn in while being cubed. They're going to get the guaranteed turn in, I'd say like 90 times out of 100, unless someone's going to punch it from Parivision away. But that means if Parivision are going to contest it, you have that Singularity option to come through out of Listic. So really well played by Virtus.pro, really playing chess there when Parivision were playing checkers at that final moment. It was that one little mistake. Parivision were playing so well up until that point, and now it's a big switch up in souls, almost 20k lead for Virtus.pro.
And yeah, Jake, you're in the middle of an analysis point as everything just exploded there, but in a brief blink of an eye, you get the big Singularity, you get the mid boss, you get urn. Everything just went the way of VP off the play from Listic.
I feel like I've seen enough here, guys. Like, I think this, having the threat of Vindicta and Bebop, to tether you, to hook you when you're trying to push towers, and then when you do group up, when you do make a committed play, there's the threat of Singularity, there's the threat of the Viscous roll. I think this VP draft is really well put together, and with Mikhails and Zergy having big games, they have no damage problems from all that AoE setup the rest of the team provides. This Parivision draft would have been called like top tier meta in the last few weeks, but I feel like VP have unlocked something here in terms of the way they're approaching this. I think what Parivision have to do is fight when Singularity is down, but so difficult to actually achieve that when you're up against the Rejuve. Yes, you have no Singularity, but can you even take the fight?
The other thing too, Jason, when you look at economy allocation here, Zergy is starting to get ahead of the game too, where we've seen Stormcloud itself just be a massive factor, especially where it's not even the main team ult to look out for, right? Singularity is kind of probably going to be number 1. However, quick engagement coming over here. Litz getting very, very low along with Saf. VP just fighting the corner, still looking very healthy. Get the urn. And Zergy and Listic just get clean up on the Parivision. Get a little bit caught out here between left and middle.
No, man, this is going to be a big switch up here. Virtus.pro already with the 20k lead. Going to look to extend it even further as they continue to catch up player after player. Wolfie and Presses the last 2 alive, and it's just on Wolfie, who's pretty much back at his own base. We're going to see Virtus.pro start to push some objectives. They're going to have another flex off. They're going to get both walkers here simultaneously. As you can see, already 3 players breaking up between 2 of these different lanes. This is a snowball. I don't think they're going to be stopping anymore here for Parivision. This is tough. I don't know how you come back from this when Zerg is able to just run down your Shiv.
Things have just changed radically over what was effectively 2 major team fights, right? Where the game was effectively even. you get the massive Dynamo play, and then you just win in the neutral here. You don't even have to use Singularity to win a big team fight. You completely reject Parivision, and now you move in, and what's about to be is a 40,000 soul lead. I mean, this game just got out of hand real fast.
They can stay too. They have Singularity ready to go, so they're going to guarantee commit to take down the Patron and going to head back now with a ton of souls to spend. I mean, Zergi's...
And Jason, you just cut out for a second, but you know,
okay.
As we mourn the Italian Wi-Fi that keeps Jason
I don't talk about it.
tethered. Yeah, I mean, it's just a real tough position where you get so many souls so quickly. It's just the compounding impact of you got Rejuve, you got Urd, you got multiple walkers down into Guardians, into map control and farm, and you know, now you're just at that point where what was once an even game, you're gonna get stat checked the entire way through, and now VP being more aggressive. They looking to seize another opportunity, force out the ethereal shift. It's gonna be enough to put Saf into the ground once more. Saf right now just going, please, dear God, get me out of this pressure. It might be able to do it because Calco is still Calco, as it turns out.
I was going to say they might be able to finish the game off that if they're able to get it, because they feint the retreat just to turn right back around to catch out Saf. And they still have a lot of big ultimates up and ready to go here, but we're going to have an urn in the next 2 minutes. If we're going to make it to that next turn, I don't really know, because Virtus.pro are still sticking around outside the base, looking for a hook, looking for some sort of catch here to open things up, and maybe an overcommitment out of Parivision.
I mean, Parivision at this point, they just have to hope that VP messes up. Their destiny is not in their own hands right now. Wolfie has to pop Shout Transformation so incredibly early just because of the damage that Zergi is putting out, and it is just rare to see a Yamato getting bullied this hard, but when you have the soul difference this high, that's all it could be. Storm Cloud in over the top. The damage comes flooding on in, and VP methodically setting the tone here in our best of one challenging match. Looking to end it here, and now they get the kill on the Prestus. The damage coming in hot and heavy onto the Patron, and this is gonna be it here, Jason. VP showing that it might be unconventional, but it may be the new meta as they take down Parivision in our best of one.
You know, questionable at some points in the beginning. We had a lot of questions around the Bebop Dynamo lane, a lot of questions around like kill potential. Obviously that did shift up quite heavily once we had ultimates online for them, able to just lock down kill after kill and apply that pressure. But again, those urns, man, for Virtus.pro, I think they had 3 turn-ins over the course of that game, proving to be still a very pivotal point of how these matches develop. Obviously not so easy to get turned in, not so easy to bounce back and forth. But one thing we have to respect is how smart Virtus.pro were about that second urn. They did not lose the left-hand side walker because they made sure to teleport someone over there to defend it. They didn't really lose too much damage on the mid lane walker either. They were being so smart about how they put that position out, and it paid off because Listic opened things up with a great Singularity into a Stormcloud out of Zergi, and eventually a win.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we got to bring Jake back in, but Jake, you know, we take a look at this, that one urn fight, you know, we kind of set it up too. It's around 19 minutes. I said, look, this urn fight could decide the course of the game. And it really went back and forth for a long time. I mean, Parivision was trying to eke out macro advantage after macro advantage. At one point, they got the Bebop to full commit while they got the free farm from the Mirage on the left-hand side. But all that just seemingly doesn't matter if you get 4 people caught in a Singularity from Listic.
And, you know, I think the Dynamo pick as well, I think Bebop had a huge impact this game in being able to wait out in those like long static engagements, both teams just trading farm, like you mentioned, defending walkers for VP and Parivision trying to split up the attention, trying to divert resources away. The whole time you have the threat of Bebop and Vindicta to find some kind of an opening. And then when the real commitment does come in, the Dynamo is just this nuclear option in your back pocket that is just impossible to fight into given the draft that Parivision played. They don't really have any answers. They have to just not do exactly what their comp is designed to do, which is stack up, fight together, or, you know, try to get big AoE Kelvin heals. They couldn't really execute on that vision because of that back 3 picks from VP. And I was doubting the VP draft when it came to the first 3, but they got exactly the tools they needed. They got the 7 in the pocket for that AoE damage follow-up. And crucially, I think it was also Obakim's Vindicta being played in a support role, which when we saw the pick, I thought immediately, oh, it's okay, it's going to be Mikhail's, it's going to be carry. But no, playing it more of the support, the control, the mobility, the scouting. These things I think are particularly potent. Something like the Tether is almost like a mini black hole or a setup for that Listic Singularity.
Yeah, I mean, you stop and think about it. The Obakim Vindicta, I mean, brings us back like many a month to where the more support-esque Vindicta used to be a thing, and we didn't really expect it, Jason, necessarily here, just because Mikhail S has been, effectively maining Vindicta for a while, but they went to a few old tricks. They decided to put Mikhail S onto the pocket, and it's hard to argue with the results across the board where, VP, they kept things even in the laning phase, and then eventually found their way through about 20 minutes into the game where, Dynamo, he's back.
I think, not to like kind of toot my own horn, but I remember saying, when we see Vindicta pick that early, there's a very real possibility that could be Obakim or it could be Michaelis, just depending on how the rest of the draft after goes. Having that flexibility in specific heroes to kind of bounce it around to what the situation calls for, I think is one thing that Virtus.pro has far above any other team out there, to be honest. But to see that change up was very smart. It worked out so well. And obviously, like when it came time to, okay, let's bring out the Bebop and we already have the pocket pick. We know what we're going to do. And it worked out so well.
We had a few options for this one, but given the nature of it coming in, no, we did have a few options. You look at the step page, but there's only one story that we had the reward here for our player of the match presented by Intel, and that player of the match, you guessed it, it is Listic. And I mean, Jake, we kind of had to do it, especially given, Dynamo was a big pick of, all right, we'll see if it works out, and Listic delivered at the most crucial point in the game.
Yeah, for the content, for the clips, we had to pick Listic, coming out of turning this mid lane into a win. I think you got to give a lot of honorable mention to D-Mov on the Bebop. I think he was definitely my runner-up for the MVP, but Listic, in these big team fights, the Warp Stone, this ridiculous impact. I mean, this was the moment where the game looked winnable for Parivision, maybe difficult, but this was the back-breaking moment, is all Listic, and then snowballing it into yet more team fights, having a lot of clutch saves with the quantum entanglement, and managing to slip out of a lot of these scenarios surprisingly unscathed. So really well executed for him, for an unconventional hero. And I wonder, I mean, Bebop hasn't been picked very much, but when it has been played over the past month or so, it's been really good. Like different teams, Hydra Nation has played it. Other squads have used it to really punish this overwhelming deathball style. And I think we have to start seriously considering Bebop's relevance in the meta. I don't think this is a pure meme hero anymore. I think the tide has turned.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because if we think back to almost every draft out of VP up against one win, they always banned Bebop and Kelvin. So now the question for me is, do they let Bebop get through so they could potentially pick it, or do they switch things up and potentially take away like a Mirage that does not allow one win to use that to punish them like they did so heavily last week?
Well, in any case, VP, they have earned their right into the money match to face off against one win another time. And the thing that's really interesting to me, guys, as we get ready to head into the break and head into the money match, is that VP, they have learned lessons. They have come in with a new meta, a new look at the game. Will this be the week that they take the throne back from one win, or has one win evolved even more? We'll find out the answer to all that and more in just a few minutes.